Sachi Didi. We do such beautiful seva, such glorious seva. Okay, now we are live streaming. Dasa Vrindavanam Vande Krishna Dasa Prabhum Tata Janavatar Chaitanya Lila Vishtar Kadino Do Nityananda Padabja Karunarena Bhushito Vyakta Chano Burachincho Vavande Vyasadupino Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindascha Ganai Saha Jayanti Patakascha Sarvesham Gurunat. So we are continuing with Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you read something yesterday, or you read?
Well, we actually had an informal talk about
Okay.
questions, live experience, like we shared.
Okay, nice.
It was nice.
Okay, then I'll pick up from where we were.
Oh yeah. This good. Really, yeah.
And that's why we heard these beautiful verses of Nanda Maharaj when Uddhava is leaving Vrindavan the other day. Oh, that's right, and how the Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, they fight with him and climb on his shoulders. But it is coming from an expression of pure love, right, and service. Let's see. Oh, that's right. We ended on this point about Nitai was here, about how we had this discussion, how there's this prayer of the gopis. It was on Sunday morning, I think, how they're saying how Krishna removes the affliction of all his devotees, right? And Nitai was asking this question, but the gopis, how can they be afflicted by anything, right? They're pure devotees, and so then we had this discussion about how sometimes there's this kind of double meaning in this, how suffering in the material sense is referring to, mundane ignorance, right? But then in the spiritual sense, there's also an expression of that as separation from Krishna, right? that is another type of suffering, right? But of course, there's also sweetness there, right? It is of a completely different category. So we had quite an extensive discussion about that. Okay, so here we are. This is where we ended. This is a verse from the Brahmar Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Api bhattamadu puryam arya pucho dunaste smarati sapitcha gehan somya bandumscha gopan Kvachidapi sakatam na kinkadinam grinite bhujamma guru sugandam murdya dasyat kadanu. And this is, of course, this Brahmar Gita, a very famous section of Bhagavatam, right? And it is, of course, her name is not there, but we understand from our gurus, it is actually Srimati Radharani, right? Expressing many sentiments in a mood of separation from Krishna, right? And so this is one of those verses. Speaking to Uddhava. O Uddhava, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs, his friends, and the cowherd boys? O great soul, does he ever talk about us, his maidservants? When will he lay on our heads his guru-scented hand? Tasabakata rahu shimati radhika sabahoite sakalam she paramadika tehoja dasi hoya seven charan jai prema gune Krishna badanukam not to speak of the other gopis, even Shri Radhika, who in every respect is the most elevated of them all, and who has bound Shri Krishna forever by her loving attributes, serves his feet as his maidservant. Now this is a very beautiful verse. This is from Bhagavatam also. Ha nata ramana prishta kwasi mahabhuja dasyaste kripanaya me sakya darshaya sanidim. O my Lord, O my husband, O most dearly beloved, O mighty armed Lord, where are you? Where are you? O my friend, reveal yourself to your maidservant, who is very much aggrieved by your absence. Tarakate rukminyadi jatek mahishi taharawapanake mane Krishna dasi. In Dwarkadam, all the queens, headed by Rukmini, also consider themselves maidservants of Lord Krishna. Right, so this was the theme here, right? Because this is the chapter on Advaita Acharya. So the point that Kaviraj Goswami was making was that everyone who comes in connection with Krishna, they're overwhelmed by this desire to serve him, right, with love. And even Advaita Acharya, who is, he's also God, right? He's Mahavishnu, but he also is compelled to serve Krishna, right? And so now Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning other examples like that, right? So even these great, right, noble, royal queens of Dwarka, they also. Chadyaya marpayitam udyata karmukeshu rajasya jaya bhakta shekadi tangri denuhu ninye mrigendra iva bhagam ajavi yutat tatri niketa chalanos to mamarchanaya. When Jarasandha and other kings, bows and arrows upraised, stood ready to deliver me in charity to Shishupal, he forcibly took me from their midst, as a lion takes its share of goats and sheep. The dust of his lotus feet is therefore the crown of inconquerable soldiers. May those lotus feet, which are the shelter of the goddess of fortune, be the object of my worship. And it doesn't mention, Rukmini it does mention. Yeah, this is Rukmini, right? And Krishna, when she allows herself to be kidnapped, right? She's willingly kidnapped by Krishna. It's very beautiful. We could also think of it as a type of analogy. Of course, it has its divine existence and lila, but we could also think of ourselves, how we would like to be kidnapped from everything that's an obstacle to our Krishna consciousness, right? Which, of course, is all of our own anarthas, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj includes some of her prayers, actually, in Prapana Jivanamrita. Right? Please come and rescue me, right? So, expressing beautiful mood of Sharanagati. Tapaschat, and this is another quotation from Bhagavatam. Tapascharanti magyaya swapada sparshanashaya sakyo pityagrahitpanim saham tadviha marjani. Knowing me to be performing austerities with the desire to touch his feet, he came with his friend Arjuna and accepted my hand. This is Queen Kalindi speaking to Draupadi. Knowing me to be performing austerities with the desire to touch his feet, he came with his friend Arjuna and accepted my hand. Yet I am but a maidservant engaged in sweeping the floor of the house of Sri Krishna. Another quotation spoken by another queen also to Draupadi. Atmaramasya tasyema vayam vai vihadasikaha sarva sanga nirityada tapasa cha babhuvima. Through austerity and through renunciation of all attachments, we have become maidservants in the home of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is satisfied in himself. Anirkikata Baladev Mahashoy Jarbhav Shuddha Shakya Vatsalya Dimoy. Not to speak of others, even Lord Baladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of emotions like pure friendship and paternal love. Teho apanake koden dasa bhavana Krishna dasa bhavavino ache konjana. He also considers himself a servant of Lord Krishna. Indeed, who is there who does not have this conception of being a servant of Lord Krishna? Who is there who doesn't feel themselves to be a servant of Lord Krishna? We could say, well, a lot of people. But this is the vision of Kaviraj Goswami, right? It's like Gurudev, when he said, I've traveled the whole world and I haven't met a single atheist, right? And we could say, well, there's some, definitely some. But seeing with this very high vision, right? This Paramahamsa vision. Because this is like, we actually, like the members of this world represent a very tiny percentage actually, right? This is the abnormal, the minority, right? We're in the minority section right now. But the normal people in the real world, in the normal world, that's just standard, right? Of course, we are all servants of Krishna. Sahasravadane jeho she sankarshan dasha deho dori kore Krishna sevam. He who is Shesh, Sankarshan, with his thousands of mouths, serves Shri Krishna by assuming 10 forms. Ananta Brahmande Rudra Sadashiva Ramsha Gunavatar Teho Sarvadeva Vatamsa. Rudra, who is an expansion of Sadashiva and who appears in unlimited universes, is also a Gunavatar, qualitative incarnation, and is the ornament of all the demigods in the endless universes. Teho koden Krishna dasya pratyash nirantar kohe Shiva mui Krishna das. He also desires only to be a servant of Lord Krishna. Sri Sadashiva always says, I am a servant of Lord Krishna. Krishna preme unmata viva digambar Krishna guna lila gai nache nirantar. Intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna, he becomes overwhelmed and incessantly dances without clothing and sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. Krishna matta guru sakha bhava kene noe Krishna prema sabhave dasya bhava se karoe. All the emotions, whether those of father, mother, teacher, or friend, are full of sentiments of servitude. That is the nature of love of Krishna. We were talking about this a little, maybe it was on Saturday, right? This expression of Jiva Goswami, how does it? Bhajaniya sarva sadguna vishishta, right? That Krishna's nature is such that whoever comes in contact with him, they're irresistibly drawn to serve him. Right? And it is, it's not based on any type of knowledge or calculation, but it is just a natural, automatic pull of the heart. Right? If you come in connection with Krishna, then one automatically wants to surrender, right? Because he is so beautiful, he is so attractive, he is so charming. And so Kaviraj Goswami is making the same point here. That is the nature of devotion for Krishna. And in a more simple sense, we can say, right, this is the expression of a real love, right? That when you really love, you have true love for someone, you naturally want to serve them, right? That it is not an exploitative thing, but you cannot but surrender to that, right? Eka Krishna Sarva Sevya Jagadishvar Adojata Sabatar Sevakanuchar. Lord Krishna, the one master and the Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Indeed, everyone is but a servant of his servants. Se Krishna Vatirna Chaitanya Ishvate Vadosa Tahar Kinkar. That same Lord Krishna has descended as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, therefore, is his servant. Keho mane, keho na mane, sab tar das. Jena mane tar hoy se papenash. Some accept him, whereas others do not. Yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. Chaitanya das mui, Chaitanya das mui, tar das das. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. Etta boli nache gai hunkar gambir, koneke vosila charja hoya sustir. Saying this, Advaita Prabhu dances and loudly sings. Then at the next moment, he quietly sits down. Bhakta bimanmu Shri Baladame Sebave Anugata Taram Shagane. The source of the sentiment of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansions who follow him are influenced by that ecstasy. Tarvatarik Shri Sankarshan Bhakta Boli Abhiman Kode Sarvakan. That's very interesting, actually. Bhakta Abhiman Mu Shri Balarame. It's saying the Abhiman of being a devotee. Actually, what it says is to have the Abhiman of being a Bhakta is Balaram. Right? Normally we think of Abhiman in a negative sense, but actually it is really, it means ego, right? And so, yeah. And ego really means identity. And so there's positive ego and there's negative ego, right? There's spiritual ego and material ego, right? So ego is not necessarily a bad thing, right? So here, Bhakta Abhiman is referring to the ego, the identity of being a devotee, right? That I'm a servant of Krishna. That's why Swami Maharaj in the translation he changed it because it sounds a little confusing. So he said the sentiment of servitude instead of devotee. But what is the root of that is Balaram. And this is very interesting because it's also mentioned, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, I believe, mentions this in his Nityananda Dwadashakam. And then also earlier in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I believe, Kaviraj Goswami mentions too, that because who is Balaram? Balaram represents the willing potency, right? The existence potency. And he's the source of ego. So he maintains the ego in all living beings, right? Whether that's spiritual or material, right? That's coming from his energy. There's some explanation like that. And so he's also the source. So we can pray to Baladev, we can pray to Nityananda, right? To give us that ego of being a servant of Krishna. So very nice expression. Bhakta Abhiman, Mul, the roots of the Bhakta Abhiman, the ego of being a devotee. Shri Balarame is Balaram, is Baladev. So the source of the sentiment of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansions who follow him are all influenced by that ecstasy. Tarvatarik Shri Sankarshan Bhakta Bali Abhiman Kode Sarvakan. Lord Sankarshan, who is one of his incarnations, always considers himself a devotee. Tarvataran Shri Jutta Lakshman Shri Rame Dasya Diho Koilo Anukan. Another of his incarnations, Lakshman, who is very beautiful and opulent, always serves Lord Ram. Sankarshan avatar kadanabdi shai tahar hridoye bhakta bhavanujai. The Vishnu who lies on the causal ocean is an incarnation of Lord Sankarshan, and accordingly the emotion of being a devotee is always present in his heart. Tahar prakash bed advaita acharya kai manavakyatar bhakti sadakarja. Advaita Acharya is a separate expansion of him. He always engages in devotional service with his thoughts, words, and actions. Vakye kohe mui chaitanya anuchar muitar bhakta mane bhave nirantar. By his words he declares, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Thus with his mind he always thinks, I am his devotee. Jal tulasi diya kore kayate sevan bhakti prachadiya sab tarila bhuvan. With his body he worshipped the Lord by offering Ganges water and tulasi leaves, and by preaching devotional service he delivered the entire universe. Prithvi dodenje she sankarshan kai vyuha kodi koden Krishna sevam. Shesh Sankarshan, who holds all the planets on his head, expands himself in different bodies to render service to Lord Krishna. Esab hoy Shri Krishna avatar, nirantar deki sabar bhakti rachar. These are all incarnations of Lord Krishna, yet we always find that they act as devotees. Esabakke shastra kohe bhaktavatar padupadi sabar. The scriptures call them incarnations as devotees, bhakta avatars. The position of being such an incarnation is above all others. Ekamatra amshi Krishna amshavatar amshi amsha deki jeshta kanishta achar. Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and all others are his parts or partial incarnations. We find that the whole and the part behave as superior and inferior. Jeshta bhave amshite hoye prabhu gyan kanishta bhave apanate bhakta bhiman. The source of all incarnations has the emotion of a superior when he considers himself the master, and he has the emotions of an inferior when he considers himself a devotee. Jeshta bhave amshite hoy. Hoy Prabhu Gyan. Well, I suppose in a simple sense we could say in his different avatars the Lord is enjoying different moods, right? It's part of his Leela. Sometimes posing as in a more so-called inferior position, sometimes as a superior. Like Krishna enjoys being beaten by his mother as baby Krishna. And then as Mahavishnu, he has this very grand position, you could say. Krishna samata hoite boro bhakta pada, atma hoite Krishna bhakta hoy premaspada. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna. For the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Wow, look at that. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna. For the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Wow. There's in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's a very funny part where, when Narada, you probably remember, right? Narada, he's going from one devotee to another, right? And then when he comes to Lord Shiva, right? Lord Brahma sends him to Shiva, right? And then he comes to Shiva, and then Shiva's like lamenting about his own condition, but one of the things that he says is, he says, I had the arrogance to want to be even greater than Krishna, right? He says something like that, and then Sanatana Goswami explains in the purport that actually he wanted to be a devotee of Krishna, and because Krishna considers the devotees to be higher than his own self, then in a sense he's saying he wants to be higher than Krishna, but actually what he really wanted was to be a devotee of Krishna, right? Very funny. I'll read this purport. This includes a very beautiful verse. The conception of oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is inferior to that of eternal service to the Lord, because Lord Krishna is more affectionate to devotees than to his personal self. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord clearly says, Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madan yatina jananti naham tebyo managapi. The devotees are my heart, and I am the heart of my devotees. My devotees do not know anyone but me. Similarly, I do not know anyone but my devotees. This is the intimate relationship between the Lord and his devotees. This is one way that we can, there are many different angles by which we can present, right, these teachings. And one angle we can make here is, if we consider the Achintya Bheda Bhed, right, conception of simultaneous oneness and distinction, then we can, someone with an impersonalist slant, right, we can say, yes, we have the option of oneness with the Lord, but we prefer the distinction. We prefer to have the opportunity of being loving servants. It is a much higher position, actually, a much more relishable position to be able to serve Krishna. We cannot conceive of how much joy is in that, right?
So from our level, we consider that we can't serve Krishna directly because we're not qualified for that. From the point of view of Krishna, from our point of view, we can't serve him directly, so we serve the devotees. From the point of view of Krishna, we have to serve the devotees because he can't serve them himself because they would not let him serve him, something like this. I heard this before.
What
is the explanation from Krishna's side? Why do we have to serve the devotees instead of serving him directly?
Well, I don't know if have to is the right word, but simply what is natural, you could say. Mm-hmm. And also when we use the word Krishna, we don't always exactly mean Krishna, right? But Krishna includes a whole system, right? And a whole ecosystem. And so serving Krishna, that includes service to Vaishnava, to Guru. There's a whole world that we are approaching, right? And like in Bhagavad Gita, right, that 1866 Sarvadharmam Parijya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja, right? Krishna says, give up everything and come to me. But there's more to it than that, right? Not, go and surrender to the picture of Krishna in your room or think you have a direct relationship. But there's a whole world around that, right? There's a whole, there are so many surrounding Krishna, right? And ultimately, we will consider that is a higher thing, right? As Shachidiri mentioned, right? Ultimately, the service of Srimati Radharani, right? Those in the Rupanuga line, they aspire for that as something even higher, right? It's not that it's it's not that this is something less. Raghunath Das Goswami in some of his prayers, he's saying, actually, I'm not so interested in Krishna. I want your mercy, Radharani. I want your grace. My whole concern is with you. Right?
We heard that Krishna says that my devotees, I love even more my devotees than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's of course in the first place Srimati Radharani.
Mm.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. So there's a lot of nuance here, right? So in a simplistic sense, we will say, surrender to Krishna, right? Love for Krishna. But in a sense, that's like a general term, right? General expression. There's so much included within that, right? It's a whole world, right?
The whole environment, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And also like Krishna's dearmost devotees are his pure devotees, right? The gurus who have come here. And in a higher level we can see the guru as Srimati Radharani. You are right, no? So it goes from step to level to see all these things.
Yeah, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gives some other helpful explanations too on this point, like why not directly to Krishna. And one point he mentioned is, yes, as you said, we're not qualified, we are, we're not. You could say also we're not reliable servitors. We just went off. We went AWOL for a while, and we can't expect. Now all of a sudden we're going to have like this, intimate, direct relationship, right? That's one thing. Then another point is that a couple other points Srila Sridhar Maharaj has also made. One is that we constitutionally cannot handle direct relationship with Krishna. The Jiva Shakti is not equipped, actually. Just like we cannot come too close to the sun. We can enjoy a nice relationship with the sun at a certain point of distance, right? Then we feel very nourished and happy in connection with the sun. But if we go too close, it'll burn us up, right? So like Krishna is so intensely beautiful and loving and charming. We can't handle too much of that, right? So that's another point. And then another very nice point Srila Sridhar Maharaj made is that he said, we are Shakti, right? We are the energy of Krishna. And Radharani is also Shakti. She, in a sense, she can be considered the mother Shakti, right? And so it is actually more natural for us to resonate with her, that we will feel more, more at home in that, in the shelter of that, energy, whatever word we want to use. So it is natural for us to group around that mother Shakti, right, as we are Shakti ourselves, right? And then, of course, this other point is also here, that ultimately we do consider, Krishna himself states, the devotee is higher than myself, right? So it is not that it is a lesser thing, right? From the ultimate standpoint, it is not a lesser thing. And then the other point that you made from Krishna's side, that he wants us to. I would say that Krishna feels he's connecting with us through his entourage, right? You could say like that, like he's giving his love, his grace through his entourage, right? Through those who are a part of his retinue, right? That he's giving his grace in different ways through his agents, right? Through his beloved servitors, right? He's giving us his grace. It's not that there's no relationship and there's no connection there. So and yes, I mean that point about that's kind of like I suppose you could call it a bit of a trade secret, like if you serve that, we know that Krishna wants to serve his intimate devotees, but they don't allow him to serve him. So we can be a little clever, right, and go in to serve those devotees, and then we will naturally draw more attention, right, from Krishna. You could say like that. And Krishna also gives that hint himself, right? There's that verse, where is it from? I don't remember. From one of the Puranas, maybe. Speaking to Arjuna, right? Gurudev used to quote that verse, which I can't remember. But where he's saying, my real devotees are those who are serving my devotees, right? He mentions that explicitly himself, right? And so he's giving some hint, like you can really capture me if you come from this angle, right? From this approach. And another point we can also make is that, it's not that we can't directly approach Krishna. We can, right? And there are devotees who have made that approach, and they, Mirabai is mentioned as a prime example of that. She had a direct relationship with Krishna. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, actually, but it's simply that from that approach you can only access so much of Krishna. That we can actually gain infinitely more from approaching Krishna through his devotees. If you take the example, like you want to connect with the Queen of England, right? Well, I always like to say the Queen of England, but now she's gone, it's a little sad. Saying the King of England doesn't have the same ring to it. So I got to think of a new one. Or you want to meet some, famous musician or something, right? Then you could write them a letter directly, right? And you could have, and they could receive it and maybe even kindly send you some reply. And maybe they'll even give you a free ticket to one of their concerts or something. And so there's some relationship there, something, right? But ultimately you're just one among millions of fans. You're one of the people in the crowd, and you have a distant you have some connection, but it's distant. But then let's say, you have you become best friends with a cousin of that pop star, right, or the queen, or whoever it is, or you make friends with the secretary or one of the bodyguards, and then they're putting in a good word for you, and I have this great friend, and she's like this and that, and then although you may not be directly interacting, it's actually a closer relationship.
I would know a lot about that superstars.
Yeah, that's right.
More than
that's a very good point. You'll hear about their intimate daily life, right? What they eat for breakfast, and you can also maybe send something. You can, I baked some cookies. Will you give it to them? And then you have some exchange going on like that. And it's actually, although you're not necessarily meeting face to face, it's actually, there's some intimacy there. It's a closer relationship. And it's like you're not physically there with them, but it's just like your family members. You always feel connected with your family members, right? You're present in a sense, right? So it's something like that, you could say. Let's see. I think there's just a few more verses. We can finish it. Atma hoite Krishna bhakte boro kari mane ihate bahuta shastra vachana pramane. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. Natata me priyatama atmayo nirna shankara nacha sankarshano nashir naivatma cha yata bhavan. O Uddhava, neither Brahma, nor Shankar, nor Sankarshan, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you. Krishna samye nahita madhurya swadan bhakta bhave kodeta madhurya charvan. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. Wow. So you can only taste Krishna's sweetness, access it through service. Shastre sedante vigyanubhav mudalok nahi jane bhave vaibhav. This conclusion of the revealed scriptures is also the realization of experienced devotees. Fools and rascals, however, cannot understand the opulences of devotional emotions. Bhakta bhavangi kori baladam lakshman natvaita nityananda she sankarshan. Krishna madhurja rasamrita korepan se suke mata kichu nahi janehan. Baladev, Lakshman, Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Shesh, and Lord Sankarshan taste the nectarian mellows of the transcendental bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and friends. They are all mad with that happiness and they know nothing else. Anyarachuk karja apane Shri Krishna pan madhurja pane hoila satrishna. Not to speak of others, even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. Swamadurja swadite koden jatan bhakta bhavinu nahi tahe asvadan. He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of a devotee. Bhakta bhavangi kodi hoilavatirna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Rupe Sarva Bhave Purna. Therefore Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee and descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. Nana Bhakta Bhave Koden Swamador Japan Purve Kodiyachie Siddhanta Vyakyam. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee. I have formally explained this conclusion. Avatar Gane Bhakta Bhave Adhikar Bhakta Bhavoite Adhik Sukhana Hiyar. All the incarnations are entitled to the emotions of devotees. There is no higher bliss than this. Ola Bhakta Avatar Shri Sankarshan Bhakta Avatar Tahi Advaita Ganan. The original Bhakta Avatar is Sankarshan. Shri Advaita is counted among such incarnations. Advaita Charja Gosaya Mahima Apar Jaha Hunkare Koilo Chaitanya Avatar. The glories of Shri Advaita Charja are boundless, for his sincere vibrations brought about Lord Chaitanya's descent upon this earth. Sankirtan Prachariya Sab Jagat Tadilo Advaita Prasadelo Premadana Pailo. He liberated the universe by preaching Sankirtan. Thus the people of the world received the treasure of love of Godhead through the mercy of Shri Advaita. Advaita Mahimananta Kepare Kohite Seliki Jai Shuni Mahajan Hoite. Who can describe the unlimited glories of Advaita Charja? I write here as much as I have known from great authorities. Acharya charane mor koti namaskar, ite kichra paradanalobe amar. I offer my obeisances 10 million times to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. Please do not take offense at this. Tomar mahima koti samudra gada, tahari jata koi bodo apadada. Your glories are as fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Speaking of its measure is a great offense indeed. Jaya 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 Shri Advaita Acharya, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Nityananda. All glories to Shri Advaita Acharya, all glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the superior Lord Nityananda. Durishloke kohilo Advaita Tattva Nirupan, Pancha Tattva Vicha Kichu Shuno Bhaktagam. Thus in 2 verses I have described the truth concerning Advaita Acharya. Now, O devotees, please hear about the 5 truths, Pancha Tattva. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Jaraj Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So the next chapter is on the Pancha Tattva. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai. You want to sing?
Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopala Govindaram Shri Madhusudana. Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha.
Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Jai Gosai Kori Charana Vandana.
Jai Gosai Kori Charana Vandana.
Jai Te Vignana Shavishta Purana.
Jai Te Vignana Shavishta Purana.
Jai Gosai Jaramurita Dasa.
Jai Gosai Jaramurita Dasa.
Dasa Vara Padarenu Mora Panchagrasa.
Panchavara Padagenu Mora Panchagrasa.
Tadira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivasa.
Adira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivasa.
Janame Janame Murari Abhinasha.
Janame Janame More Abhinasha.
Jai Gosai Java Kache Koila Vasa.
Jai Gosai Jaya Jaya Koilambasa.
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakasha.
Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakasha.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavana.
Anande Guru Hari Bhaja Vrindavana.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Machayamana.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Jayamana.
Shri Guru
Vaishnava Pada Padma Koriyasha